Hi everyone, this is Shivraj Gurbakshani. I'm here with the first episode of Inspire Change. This episode of the podcast will be more about bringing intentional based involuntary change in yourself, as the guest we have today is an expert in it. Amit is the author of Finding Awareness, The Journey of Self Discovery, who has been writing on Instagram since 2018 on his page. He has explored various forms of art, including poetry, photography, music, and found his meaning and purpose through his writing and everything he's doing on his page. He wrote a book in 2021, and it is one of the most impactful book I've ever read. This is the only book that I read 10 times. It's like a song you feel like going back to. He recently has developed courses on various important aspects of human life, namely fear, relationship, goal setting, finding meaning and purpose. He's also building a community of like minded people to engage with. You can join his community by going to his website www.findingawareness.com/findinginsight. Hi Amit.
Hey Shivraj, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
That was quite an intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about everything that you have been doing. And my first question is, why did you come up with the name Finding Awareness? Like, do you think there is still room for you to explore in the realm of awareness, or it's like a never ending journey one walks on? What's your take on it?
Yeah, no, the words finding awareness generally mean that there is no resting point. There is no one place you come to and say, okay, now I know everything. Because if you come to such a point, then you have now again become stagnated. Again, you have become attached to whatever place you have arrived at in life. And if you become attached to one place, then life has a way of showing you that not everything you know is true. Not everything you know is correct. And things start going sideways again. See, so because life is such a process of constant flux, constant change, we have to keep learning. And that's why finding awareness is trying to point towards the journey of self-awareness. There is no destination. There is no final point where you come to and say, okay, now I understand everything. Now I know everything. There is no such place. And we have to keep moving. Like, like water that comes from the mountaintop, right? It comes down a stream and the stream keeps moving until it meets the ocean. And you might say, well, then the journey of the water has ended. It has met the ocean. So how do you say finding awareness is a constant process? Well, it's not. The water that is in the ocean again evaporates, again goes back in the form of rain, storms, etc., and or snow, and falls at the top of the mountain, and the cycle begins again. And so we have to be humble in that sense, ensure that whatever we know, no matter how many concepts we gather along the way, no matter what wisdom life gives us, there is no stopping. There is a constant flow, a constant movement, and a constant adaptation to the challenges of life. So that's why you're always finding more awareness, always learning.
So if someone who's looking for a permanent foundation one can rely on, is there any such thing on this when someone is walking on this path, like a strong foundation?
A strong foundation is the process. So there is a strong foundation, but that strong foundation is like, you can say it's like a great big ship on the ocean. See, the ship is, if the ship is too big, you feel like you're standing on a stationary island, but you're not on an island. The ship is moving on the water, see? So the strong foundation that you're looking for is your process. And what do I mean by process? By process, we mean, what is the process you follow to observe your own mind? Is there a process you have, for instance, to wake up in the morning, meditate, journal about your thoughts? Is there a process you have put in place where you exercise every day, you eat properly every day, you read good books, where you don't consume too much information, where you don't desensitize yourself by engaging in too many passive pleasures like watching movies, going on vacations, drinking drugs or whatever people do. um, what is the process you have? And that process is your fallback. That process is your foundation. Because when things go south, when things go bad in life, and they always do, something doesn't work out, some project we start doesn't come to fruition, a job we have, we get laid off from it, a relationship we have doesn't seem to work, we don't get along with our partners, there's constant fights, our parents don't approve of our life choices, and you see there's so many things that can go on, right? When those things happen, what is the process you fall back on? Do you go back into meditation? Do you say, okay, I need to take some time off and think carefully about what's happening to me? I need to maybe go for a walk every day and think carefully about these things. I need to read a book about a certain thing. Or do you start blaming other people? Or do you say, this is all their fault? Life has been unfair to me. Or do you go in that direction? If you go in that direction, then you don't have a process. Then you're going to keep bouncing around and keep suffering the brunt of those problems. But if you have a process, if you have a foundation, then you can start examining what went wrong, when it went wrong, how it went wrong, see, and meditate upon it, come to your own solutions about it, and then start implementing those solutions and start coming out of those problems in life. So that's what it means by having a foundation. So you get to have something strong, but that strong is not something which is fixed. That process you have is constantly going to keep evolving. New things are going to come in that process. You're going to gain more knowledge, more information, more wisdom, and you modify, improve your process as you go along. So that foundation you get is this feeling of self-knowledge, which you're building on top of the previous knowledge you have. And you, as you build on your self-knowledge, as you understand yourself more, you start feeling more and more secure. You start believing in yourself, saying, okay, now I know how to handle these things. Now I trust myself. And that's the foundation. That's the core of what you get out of this. You get more emotional security, you get more emotional self-reliance and self-understanding.
At this, I used to struggle deeply with finding balance, or having a strong foundation. But when I read the concept of centering in your book, a lot of things started changing after it. And when I started practicing those 3 meditations that you talk about in the book. So can you tell people what centering is and how does one go about it?
So centering is, simply put, a practice of focusing your attention on your sensory inputs. So when you center, you're essentially centering in your sensations, because most of us live in our minds. If I ask you what your life is right now, then most people will describe their current state of life as the thoughts they are having. I'm having negative thoughts, I'm having positive thoughts, I am thinking about this certain thing that happened last week to me and my work, or this is something my partner said to me, etc., etc. So this is all thoughts. So we are living in our mind. Nobody ever says my life is the calm sensations of peace that I feel in my hands, or my life currently is what I'm seeing, this picture hanging on the wall in front of me. Nobody says my life is the sounds of the cars passing by, or the hum of the AC, or the dog barking in the distance, or children playing around me. Nobody describes life that way, which means we live life in our head. We don't live life in our body. And so centering is a practice which teaches us how to do that. Every single day, we teach ourselves how to leave our mind and enter our body. So we believe we are in the body, but that's only partially true. We are basically living in our own mind. And so centering says, okay, first you start with breathing, and then you pay attention to your breath for 5 or 10 minutes. And this is, in detail on the website and elsewhere. But you basically take 20 conscious breaths, and you take them in a way that is 5-second inhales and 6-second exhales. So as long as you do that, it will take you about 5 minutes or 4.5, 5 minutes to complete about 20 breaths. So you take 20 breaths and you pay attention only to your breathing. You don't pay attention to what your mind is doing. Once you're done with that, the next 5 minutes, you pay attention to the sounds coming at you from around your house, inside the house and outside the house. Just the raw sounds, not judging them, not saying, oh, that's this or that's that. Just listen to the sounds and start connecting with the reality which actually is. After those 5 minutes of paying attention to the sounds, you become so quiet naturally that you start hearing this deep thuds in your body. And you realize, okay, what I'm hearing is actually my heartbeat. And you see this change in pressure in your ears. You can't actually hear your heartbeat, but you can feel it as a change in pressure in your ears. And you realize, oh, I can hear my heartbeat. And so then you start going into your sensations. So if you pay attention to your heartbeat, you realize your heart is constantly pumping blood all through your body. And you feel those pulses in your fingertips, or you feel those pulses in your toe tips, in your feet. And so the extremities of your body change in sensation as your heart beats. And so as you pay attention to that, you start feeling, perceiving more and more sensation in your body. And so you do that for 5-10 minutes, as much as you want. And then you switch to seeing. So we did hearing, we did feeling, now we switch to seeing, which is when I open my eyes and I look at things around me as if I haven't seen them before. I try to find things in my own room, wherever I'm meditating. I try to find things every single day which I haven't seen before. Smallest of things, marks on the wall, things that are not clean, maybe some dirt, some dust lying around, a piece of paper, a cup which you haven't moved in a couple of days, or what have you. Pay attention to those small details, and you realize you're becoming more and more centered. And you start connecting with your sensations, and you feel safe in your own skin. The feeling of unsafety, or feeling of being attacked, or feeling of being left out, or the fear, anger, all those emotions exist in the mind. In the body, nothing exists. And so you connect with this neutrality of experience. And neutral is far better than positive or negative, because neutral is stable. The positive or negative can change. The positive that is up comes down. Whatever is down can go up. And so the neutral stays the same. And so this becomes a place where you can return to every single day, where you connect with the neutrality of everyday, ordinary life experience. So there's nothing special in this. There's no concept. I did not give you anything which says, oh, you do this and you realize something. No, none of that. This is very simple, very basic, and it arises naturally if you examine the fact that you are spending way too much time in your head. Then you say, okay, I need to spend time in my body. And you start feeling calmer and calmer every single day. And then something strange happens, which is, because now you are centered in the body, you can observe your thoughts and actually understand them. See, because now you have a different vantage point. Now you have pulled yourself out of this constant river of thoughts, of consciousness, which is flowing in you, and you have pulled yourself out onto the steady banks of the river, and now you can watch the river. Now you can watch your fear and understand what that fear is. Now you can watch your anger and understand your anger. See, so that's why we practice centering. It is the most fundamental practice of meditation. If you can understand centering, if you do centering, no matter what meditation practice you do, it will make that practice deeper. It will improve that meditation practice. So that's what centering is.
So centering leads to clarity in your mind, and eventually you end up making good decisions, good life decisions.
Correct. Centering enables you to, it enables you to see yourself as you are. And because you can see yourself as you are, you naturally make better decisions out of it. There is a lot more involved, because then you start observing your thoughts and you have to understand your thoughts. That's a different story altogether. But centering creates the basis for self-understanding. Without centering, you cannot understand yourself. You must connect with your senses if you have any hope of understanding yourself.
Yeah, and there was this sentence, or I don't know, you said it in some webinar, like once you start doing this, you will start opening doors of every room of your mind, and no matter what you find there, you'll
Yes.
you'll know yourself better. And i I experienced this, and after, like, it makes you humble in the process. That's what I've
Mhm.
realized after going through this. You had a very interesting concept about anxiety. Can you tell about it a little bit?
Um, I said a lot of things about anxiety. Which in
So,
particular, what in particular are you asking about?
anxiety, you said anxiety is like a snake that grips you,
Mhm.
and when
So,
you're trying to get out of it, yeah, continue, go ahead.
so before we go into anxiety, let's finish what you started. Okay, you asked me
Yeah,
about opening the rooms of your house. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
and anybody who's listening who might be interested in what that says, it basically means, imagine, and we'll come to anxiety too through that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
if you are, imagine if somebody hands over the keys of a massive house to you. The house has 100 rooms. Of course, you are rich overnight, so you'll be happy. But can you sleep safely
No,
at night? Can you
no.
sleep soundly at night? No. You will say, "Oh, I can't sleep in this house. I live in one room, but there's 99 other rooms in this big mansion which are closed. I don't know what's in those rooms. They may be dead bodies. I don't know what there is lying in those places." And so you can never sleep. But then the next day, you call some people and you say, "Okay, I need to install cameras in my house." And these people start installing cameras, and they say, "Okay, today we can only do 50 rooms." Okay. And the next day, you sleep a little better because you have a small room where there's tiny screens, and on those screens, you can see what's going on in 50 of your rooms. But there is still 50 rooms, which are 49 rooms, which are still in the dark. And so you still don't feel completely safe. And so the next day, these people come and then they put lights in every single room you have. Now, not only are there lights in all the rooms, but now you have cameras which show you every single house, every single room in that house. So this house is basically the mind. See, and the dark corners of the mind are the reason why we feel afraid,
Yeah,
why we feel anxious
100%.
about what life is doing to us. See, and self-awareness, self-understanding is that process of shining a light in the dark corners of your mind. Now, some of these rooms, you will find old furniture, unnecessary stuff, old crap that previous people left in or whatever, and you think this all needs to go. I need to clear this up. Or there is things which are there which you don't want to be there. Whatever the case may be, at least now you know. In the fact that you know that you're not in the dark anymore, that you know your own weaknesses, you know the things that you did which were wrong in the past, you know the things that you did right in the past, you know everything. Just the fact that you are now discovering about yourself is going to bring more security, is going to reduce this anxiety you feel about life. And most people go through life in a state of anxiety, which is, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't
Hmm.
know what will happen if I lose my job. Because there's social conditioning, there's parental conditioning, family conditioning, and you are not supposed to be without a job. See? And so if I lose my job, what will happen to me? That anxiety basically comes from not knowing how you will react to the unknown of not having a job.
Yeah.
But if you know yourself deeply enough, then you also know that losing a job will be not such a big thing, that you will easily be able to handle your emotions, your state of mind if you ever get laid off. That all you will do is, okay, I'll just come home, start typing my resume, and I will call a bunch of people, start networking or whatever, and I'll find a new job. See? So there is no fear, no anxiety if ever you start understanding yourself. And Anxiety is slightly different than fear. Okay. Anxiety is the mind being caught. So depression is the body lagging behind the passage of time. Anxiety is the body ahead of the passage of time. See? So if you feel depressed, you feel like your thoughts are asking you to do something, but your body just doesn't want to follow through. The body is lagging behind. Anxiety is different. Anxiety is your heart rate is rising, your breath is shaky, your body is, your hands are sweating or whatever, and your heart rate is up, but your mind is not able to catch up to whatever is going on. So anxiety is you're ahead of time. So in both cases, you're out of sync with the passage of time. And so the best antidote to anxiety, if you ever feel anxiety, is to slow down and start coming back into the present moment. And no matter what the pressures of society tell you, to do things at your own pace. If people want you to go faster, you go slower. And so this response to anxiety creates the opposite atmosphere in the body, because the body is designed to race when it becomes anxious. And if you try to slow it down, then you start doing the exact opposite thing which anxiety is asking you to do. So if you ever become anxious, just start slowing things down. Do everything really slowly. Move very slowly. Take 15% more time to just do things like getting up and getting a glass of water, or sitting down and calling somebody. Do everything slowly. If your boss wants you to send an email and finish a project, just wait. Don't start working on it. Start working on it only when you feel comfortable. So take a pause before you send that email or type that email or whatever, pick up that phone. And all of this reveals itself when you observe the mind. When you observe yourself becoming anxious, you realize I'm speeding up. Anxiety is speeding up. And the more I try to do what anxiety tells me, the more I get embroiled in it, the more I get trapped in it. And so the only thing I can do is slow down, do the exact opposite thing which my body is telling me to do. See? So all of this comes from observing yourself and understanding yourself. Makes sense?
Yeah. In one of your Q&A, you had said, someone had asked you a question about a breakup, and you had said that take time to find your new identity.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the process of finding or your new identity look like?
So the reason why most of us feel so hurt by separations, breakups, divorces even, is because our identity gets fused in with the other person. Because we have spent so much time with this another person that now we feel like we are a part of them. And a part of our own selves has been torn apart from us. That's why separations feel so painful, is because a part of our identity is being torn apart from us. Now, the only way, firstly, breakups are nothing to be sad about. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Because the reason why somebody leaves you is because from their point of view, they saw pain in the future. Okay, to put it very simply, without going into, my dog is barking.
I know. I have a.
You have a dog one? Yes. So we just let the dogs bark. We can't do anything about it. So if somebody leaves you, that means the way they saw life, the way they experienced life, told them that if they continued with you, in their mind they see pain. And why they see pain, we may disagree with. But we have to understand that reality always has two sides to it. One side of the reality is our experience of that relationship. The other side of the reality is their experience of the relationship. And we never account for their side of reality. We always think, but I thought this was going so well. I thought there was some potential in this. But that's, of course, partial truth. The complete truth includes what they think about it too. And if they made a decision, or if it was a mutual decision, that you must end the relationship, then at least one person saw that there is pain in the future. And so if based on that they said no, then that means they are saving you from future pain. And so relationship ending is nothing to be sad about. I say celebrate, be happy the relationship is ended, because this person just saved you from a lot more pain in the future. Now, having said that, what to do about the problem of our identity? Because our identity is still attached to them, still tied up with them. Now we have to start the process of rediscovering, re-understanding who we are without this person. Say, because I enjoy movies, but I always saw movies with this person. And so that part of me is attached. See, what does it mean to watch the movies that I like? What does it mean to spend time with myself and enjoy spending time with myself? What does it mean to do things exactly the way I want to do them? What does it mean to take a vacation by myself? What does it mean to read a book that I enjoy reading? All of those things need to be explored. What does it mean to learn a new art form? What does it mean to start something from scratch? Learn something from scratch. Open a book and read it, or join a course, start taking that course. Something that you love doing, not something that somebody wants you to do. And when you start doing that, you start bringing your attention closer and closer to yourself. You start understanding yourself more and more, because self-worth, which was until now tied up with another person, can only be found by doing things that make you forget yourself. Most of us think that self-worth is found by, okay, I must believe myself, I must trust myself, I must keep saying those things to myself. No, self-worth can be found by none of those things. They can be only, that is only temporary. True self-worth, real self-worth comes about when you start doing things that make you forget yourself, things that you really, really love to do. Like, for example, starting a podcast, right? You do something that you enjoy doing, and it makes you temporarily forget everything that's going on in your life. And when you come back to your life, when you come back from taking that course, reading that book, learning, practicing dance, or going to a yoga class, or practicing martial arts, or whatever it is that you love to do, you come back from doing those things, you come back to a person who was brave enough, who cared enough to do something that they love to do. You come back to that person. That person is the new you. And the more you do that, the more you see changes in yourself. The more you keep coming back to this person who does what they love to do. And that is what builds self-worth. That's why if any person you see who has a strong sense of identity in the world, strong sense of self-worth, you will never see a person who doesn't love doing what they do. Every single instance you find somebody who has a high amount of self-worth, you will see that person is skilled at something. That person has spent years developing a certain skill set, you see, and that's what gives them confidence. That's what gives them self-worth. That's what gives them autonomy in their life, independent thinking, self-reliance, self-respect, self-confidence. So that's the way to remove your identity from someone else. Do things the way you want to do them. Do things that you love to do, and do them defiantly. People will stand in your way. People will stop you from doing those things, but you must pursue the things that you love to do. You must fight the world in that sense. That's the only way you can gain your identity back. Otherwise, you'll keep having the same thoughts for 10 more years and nothing will change. So it's a painful truth, but that's the only thing that works. So get out there, do the things that you love, and you will rise above all of those things in your past.
So you're saying that self-worth will add, like building your self-worth will add a depth to your current life and get you out of the shallowness that you're going through, or shallowness you're feeling after a breakup. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. it will give you a sense of meaning. It will imbibe a sense of purpose in you. And when you have that sense of meaning and purpose in you, you just become a more happier person. You just become a happier person. And more importantly, it tells you that you can be without another person. You can be happy without this constant feedback from somebody else telling you whether you are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So that's one of the biggest problems we have in society is we are, unfortunately, too dependent on other people to tell us whether what we are doing is right or wrong. And we can never make a decision about right or wrong in isolation, in solitude. Isolation is a wrong word. In solitude, we always say, okay, let me ask my mom and dad what they think. Let me ask my best friend what he thinks or she thinks. Let me ask my partner what they think. And that's the problem. So you can ask for feedback, of course. You can ask for help, of course. But you must be able to think by yourself. You must be able to make your independent decisions by yourself. So this is what will teach you how to do that, doing things you love.
Yeah. And you had also added a point to the similar context. It was related to addiction, but you were saying that at that point, it was serving a purpose. Just look at it that way. So if someone is having a difficult problem accepting why I went through such a rough breakup or why I ended up in such a bad relationship, at that point, it was serving a purpose. You had put this in this context, and that was really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike all the famous buzz out there about ego, you talk like people say ego is the enemy, but you say ego is the teacher. If ego is our teacher, who is the learner?
Very good question. If ego is a teacher, who is the learner? The learner is also the ego.
So it's making things more complicated. Like,
no, it's simple. There's nothing complicated. I'll tell you why. Because there is nothing else but the ego. In the beginning, at least, we are egos. We are self-centered people in one way or another way. And we are afraid people in one way or another way. And so we do things in order to protect ourselves, in order to perpetuate certain things that provide us a false sense of security. See, so the ego perpetuates itself through those conditioned behaviors. But somebody has to start looking at those things. So who starts looking at these things? Who starts unraveling these patterns? It is, of course, the ego, because we realize, okay, I lived my life in a certain way, and that led to failure, that led to suffering, that led to problems. And so because I've suffered, I start thinking, I start observing, I start looking at my life objectively. I start practicing self-awareness. And as the ego, which is me, starts practicing self-awareness, it starts seeing things which it had not seen before. It starts seeing patterns which were hidden. You see, it's kind of like, to put it simply, once you become conscious of a certain behavior, you can no longer repeat that behavior. You know, funny example, if you are, let's say, having lunch with your friends, okay, in a restaurant, and you're making a noise while you chew your food, okay, and your friend says, hey, you're making too much noise. Is your good friend, he says it nicely, you're making too much noise while you're chewing. What happens after that?
you stop chewing.
Can you make that noise? You stop making the noise instantly, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You know, it's you, when you realize the absurdity of what you're doing, you stop doing it. And so when the ego sees the absurdity of the fact that, okay, I am so disappointed in myself because I did things which other people wanted me to do. I became an engineer, or I became a doctor, etc., because my parents forced me to be so. And Then I did that for many years and I realized I'm not good at it. And now I am so angry. And now I'm angry because I was forced to do something that I did not want to do. But can I blame my parents? No. I realized that at some point, I myself got carried along with what society was thinking. And so when that sinks in fully, that's just I do things to please others, and then I become upset when they don't work out, and I blame others, which means I am creating my own problems here. See, I am not angry at the world. I'm angry that I let the world do things to me, that I followed along with these ideas I had about pleasing other people. And when those people were not pleased, I became upset. But the absurdity is, I was expecting to please them. So they have nothing to do here. They have nothing to change. I stopped trying to please them all the time. Because I realized the more I try to please people, the more it doesn't work, the more upset people get with me, and the more unhappy I become. And so when that loop completes itself, that is what an insight is. So I have an insight into the nature of people pleasing. And so I stopped pleasing people altogether. Which means the ego just learned about itself. And as it learns about itself, it starts dropping those burdens. It's like you're flying a plane and you realize the plane is too heavy because the meters are saying the plane is just too heavy. And so it starts shedding weight. One by one, you start dropping stuff. See, and as you do it, the plane becomes lighter. Yeah. So as the ego unravels itself, the ego becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. That's why this is the process of finding awareness, the process of becoming lighter in your ego. So the ego is the teacher and the ego is also the student. It's not complicated at all.
So ego is not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere until the point comes where the student becomes the teacher. And I will leave it at that. Okay. I won't explore that anymore. But yeah. So that's it.
So what is the difference between expectations and responsibilities? And where does one draw a line when it comes to choosing between responsibility and drifts?
So when you say responsibility, what do you mean? Responsibility to other people?
Or responsibility to society, like as a person, your position in the society. Because we can't be a complete rebel if we want to live in the society or if we want to have your own family.
So you are saying what is the boundary between the two? Like how much to pursue your own self and how much to do what society wants you to do?
Yeah.
Right. So I would say pursue what you want to do fully. Because unless you pursue what you want to do fully, you cannot live in that society. That same society will become a cage for you. It will become a trap. Because the burden of responsibility, the so-called responsibility in quotes, the responsibility to have children, the responsibility to take care of your parents, the responsibility to have a good education, the responsibility to make money, none of those things will bring you happiness if you don't have an element of your drift in there, an element of, hey, this is something I do just for myself. This is something I really enjoy doing. If you don't have that, then everything you do for other people will become a burden. Then none of those things will be done well. Then you can't take care of your parents well because you will always be resentful of the fact that they pressured you into doing something that you hated doing. Then you cannot do something for your husband or your wife or your children because you constantly look at them as burdens, keeping you away from living your best life. You cannot do anything for society either because you see society as this set of hypocritical concepts. See, society follows religion, but in the privacy of their own homes, they practice all kinds of disgusting things which are prevented by that religion. The religion says be kind, and these same people are rude, screaming, violent in their own houses. See, so there, you come to this place where you realize society is hollow. Society cannot be trusted. The same people who are here to protect you will come after you if you violate their norms. And so society also becomes this thing which you hate. And so this hate and resentment creeps into everything that you do if you don't follow your drifts. That's why you must always do the things that you love and try to be a complete rebel. See what happens. See how far you can go. Test your limits. Don't be afraid about that. Have no fears of what other people are going to say or think, because ultimately, if you aren't happy, and in the sense happy, I don't mean the word happy in the sense pursuing your pleasures, but happy in the right sense, if you aren't fulfilled in the deepest sense, then none of those people you're trying to be responsible for are going to be happy anyway. They are going to look at you and they're going to resent you. They're going to say, oh, he's always unhappy, or she's always unhappy. And so you've got to pursue what you love to do. And if you don't know what you love to do, you have to take time to figure it out and do the closest thing. Do the thing that is closest. And then the path will start revealing itself.
There's a sense of fear of judgment that comes along when you're trying to pursue something that you like.
Mm-hmm.
How to avoid it, or how to not let it affect you when you're pursuing your drift?
By doing it your own way, by not doing it in a way that constantly compares yourself to others, because these judgments, right, they're not coming from other people, they're coming from yourself.
Yeah.
It's we judging ourselves, saying, oh, this is not good enough.
Yeah.
Hey, this is not going to work. Look, other people are doing it so much better than me. And so that constant nagging comparison has to be put aside. If you are able to put that comparison aside and simply focus on your craft, whatever it is that you're learning or doing, then you will find a place where every single day you find enjoyment and learning through what you're doing. And that process of learning, enjoyment becomes a continuous feedback loop. The more I focus, the more I learn. The more I learn, the more I enjoy. The more I enjoy, the more I want to focus the next time I'm here. Again, the more I focus, the more I learn. The more I learn, the more I enjoy. And the cycle keeps becoming better and better. And it looks like an upward spiral.
Yeah.
We all know downward spirals, things getting worse and worse. This becomes an upward spiral, things getting better and better each day. And so becoming steadfast, becoming persistent in protecting your process, protecting your particular way of doing things. I will not do it like you want me to do it. I will not say things like, for my craft, what I'm doing here, talking about mind and self-awareness, I will not say things the way Sadhguru says, for instance. I will not say things the way Eckhart Tolle says, or Krishnamurti says, or whoever, Alan Watts, whoever spirituality. I don't care about what they say. I say it my way, okay? And so it takes a lot of careful thinking, a lot of deliberate thinking, a lot of insistence on being authentic. See, every time there is judgment and comparison, you have to go back to being authentic. You have to ask yourself, what is my authentic self asking me to do? And the instant you ask that question, the answers will start coming. And you pursue those answers, you start building your own way of doing things. When you have your own way of doing things, you are now not a car in a 7-lane highway racing with other people, but you are on a path in the woods. You are on your own individual journey in the forest. And if you have ever been on a hike in a mountain, there is no forward and backwards.
Yeah.
There is no who is ahead of me, who is behind me. There is
Yeah.
only the journey. See? And so you start taking your own journey. That's how you put aside all outside judgments and inside judgments.
So does this mean that everyone who's there on earth, they have a unique way of doing things? They have a unique sense of
course.
individuality that they can bring to the world.
Yes, correct. And it is to each individual to explore their individuality. It doesn't mean, look, the number one misconception is people say, oh, that means everybody can be famous, successful and famous. No. Okay, that's not what it means. What it means is every single person has the capacity, the ability to figure out what they love to do it in their own specific way, and find meaning, happiness through that. And of course, success follows. Success is the side effect. Okay, it's a foregone conclusion. So they will find success in whatever small way they want to find success. Some people don't want success. There's many cases where, for instance, there's a stand-up comedian, Dave Chappelle, if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah.
He had a very famous show called The Chappelle Show in 2004, 2005, something like that. And they did 2 seasons, and then he walked away before the 3rd season ended, because the network was saying, hey, you need to do things a certain way, according to the way we ask you to do it, change certain people, modify your message a certain way. And he said, no, I don't want it. I reject the success. I reject $50 million. And that time it was a lot of money, and he walked away. See, and he went away for 10 years. There's many cases like that. If you've ever read the comic Calvin and Hobbes, written by Bill Watterson, it's a beautiful comic. You should if you haven't. It's a story, basically, comic is about a 6-year-old boy who goes on adventures, very creative, very intelligent, etc., etc. And it was all over the newspapers, extremely popular. Similar thing happened. There was deadlines and there was pressure on the artist, and the artist said, I'm going away. The number one most popular news comic strip writer or drawer, or sketch, or whatever you call it, comic strip writer, maker, he left the scene and he just disappeared. And he has still gone. He's been gone for, I think, 20 years now or more, I think. So Bill Watterson is, nobody knows where he lives. People know where he lives, but he is an unknown figure. So he had his stint with success, and he is completely happy not being in the public eye. See, but he did something which was authentic, which was full of integrity, and that's how you should do things. That's what I prefer. It doesn't, most people, especially people who've consumed a lot of media, the general public, assume that, okay, if everybody has to have a purpose, that means everybody has to become successful and famous. Absolutely not. That only means everybody has to find a sense of meaning in their lives. It is so, so important. Because we have a crisis of meaning, people get absorbed into all kinds of stupid ideas. Okay, people join cults, people become extremely religious, people get distracted by politics and become political identities, especially in India. People are deeply identified with their politics. So all that happens because there is a deep void in individual lives. People lack meaning in their lives. That's why what this politician, that politician, this person, that person says becomes extremely important. See, and then you become willing to fight for it, and down goes society. So it's extremely important that you find your own meaning. You look for it and you find it. Because if let's say you find meaning in playing the guitar and creating music, you don't care what somebody else is saying. You're loving your life.
Makes sense. So there's this myth about creativity in people. Like, some people say I'm not a creative person. Some people say I'm a creative person. What's your take on it? Like, can everyone be creative in some
Very
fields?
good question. Yes, very good question. Human beings are creative by nature. And most people understand creatively in a completely incorrect way. We think creativity is ideas. We think creativity is brainstorming. Like, oh, somebody who can sit in one place and think of different strange creative ideas and draw pictures or think of a story for a book or a movie or whatever, that person is creative. Or somebody who can play a musical instrument is creative. That's not creativity at all. What is creativity? Creativity is the ability to see what's in plain sight, but walk away with something different. Creativity is to see what everybody else sees and see something else through it, which means what? It's not idea generation. It's not forcing yourself to come up with new ways. No, it's actually deeper observation of the same reality. Creative thinking, in most cases, I wouldn't want to put a number on it, but let's say 95% of the cases has got to do with deeper observation and deeper understanding of any given thing that you're doing. That's what makes you creative. See, we look at, let's say, a musician. Say, musician is creative. How did he get creative? Well, a musician spent hours and hours learning that instrument.
Yeah.
And when they were not making progress, they said, okay, let me hire a new teacher to teach me. Let me try to play a new song. Let me slow down. Let me practice this particular part of the song over and over again. So they developed muscle memory. And in doing so, they went deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's how, after 10 years, they become what you call a creative individual. How did a writer become creative? The same way, by sharpening their craft. How did a speaker become creative? The same way, going deeper into the art of speaking, understanding how to change your voice tonality, so on, so on, so forth. Any creative actors, how did they become so good? How did Tom Cruise or Leonardo DiCaprio become so good at their craft? Attention to detail, right? Tom Cruise, for instance, why is he so good? He is so good because he practices daily hours learning things which people would think dangerous. He can fly 10 different types of aircraft. He is a singer. He knows how to dance. He takes dancing lessons. He knows how to fight. He takes martial arts. I mean, he learns everything. And that's what makes him, people would say, the last living superstar, like last living movie star. And so in every single instance, almost every single instance, creativity comes from going deeper into something, not thinking up ideas. That's silly and that's stupid. If anybody has told you that being creative is to think up ideas, that's wrong. That person is not creative. Okay. Most creative individuals are people who see things very, very deeply. They see things which nobody else can see. That's what makes them creative.
Interesting. You've spoke a lot about intuition and like, how does one develop intuition? Which is followed by a question like, can intuition be applied to every aspect of life, or it has limited applications?
Again, a good question. Intuition develops in two ways. One is the kind of intuition which comes from practicing a certain skill over and over again. And then you become intuitive in that particular field. Okay. And then the other type of intuition is general intuition. The general intuition is what we are referring to. But intuition comes in two forms. So that's first we have to establish that. There is an intuition which a writer has. There's an intuition which a musician has. There's an intuition which a performer has. Any person who practices a certain skill has developed an intuition, because the conscious actions become subconscious, and the subconscious action know exactly how to present themselves in a given situation in that particular field. Okay. So you will see an intuitive business leader, you will see an intuitive politician, you will see an intuitive artist, etc., etc. Then there is general intuition, which is ordinary people like you and me. How can we have intuition? And how to use that intuition in decision making? That intuition comes about when we understand how to listen, feel, see without the interference of thought. So when I listen to you, or I listen to the ordinary person at the grocery store, or I listen to my friend, or I listen to my girlfriend or boyfriend, or my parents, my cousins, my brothers, sisters, when I'm talking to them, and when they are talking to me, who am I talking to? Am I talking to them as they are, or am I talking to a memory I have of them? Most people speak to memories. Most of us are not related in that sense at all. We are speaking to a past version of that other person, and therefore we aren't listening. What is happening is our interaction with people or our interaction in daily life is constantly interfered by our thoughts from our past. And so we end up with thinking. We end up with intellect. Intellect is this processing that's going on. Oh, this is what they said to me the last time. This is what they're going to say to me again. They might hurt me again, etc., etc. And so that intellect is not intuition. When I listen so completely, when I pay so much attention that there is only the information that's coming from you, when I listen to your voice with such intensity that I forget everything else exists in my life. Now I have created a vacuum in my brain. At the conscious level, I've created a vacuum where there are no thoughts. And when I create this vacuum where there is no thoughts, that's when my intuition comes in. And my intuition tells me exactly what to say, when to say it, how to say it. Which is why if you go to an interview, a job interview, and you listen to what the interviewer is asking you very intently, your intuition steps forward and says things. And sometimes you realize, oh, he gives such good answers.
Yeah.
Or in the meeting at work, you say the perfect things. That happens when your mind was quiet, when it was perceiving information. So developing intuition takes time. Developing intuition takes effort. And we cannot have full-blown intuitive response right away. We have to start small. And we start by creating vacuums in our mind and let that vacuum be filled by what we are feeling in that moment, and then trusting it and going along with it. Like, for instance, the smallest way I'll start training my intuition is not deciding, like, for example, after this podcast is done, I'm going to go get some lunch. Okay. But if you ask me what lunch I'm going to get, where am I going to eat? I don't know. When the time comes, my intuition will tell me. When the challenge arrives, when the time comes, my intuition will tell me where to go and eat. See? And so I'm quite sure that when I put on my shoes and I get in my car and decide to go somewhere, I will know where to drive. And delegating that decision-making process to my intuition. Instead of planning, this is where I'm going to eat today. See? And then slowly, as you begin to trust, which means I'll go have lunch. And in the evening, I will be like, oh, I had lunch and I made a decision at the last moment. I made the decision based on my intuition, and it turned out so well. So now I trust my intuition. And that small element of trust in my intuition grows. And the next time, I don't prepare for a meeting at work. And the next time, I don't prepare for a difficult conversation I'm going to have with my partner or with somebody else. And then I start delegating everything to intuition. I just show up unprepared. Like, I'll show up to this podcast with no preparation, for instance.
Yeah.
Right? And just see how things go. And just let it flow. It's intuition. So you train slowly build it up, and then let it take over. Let it drive your life. Instead of you holding on for dear life, take your hands off the steering wheel, not the actual car, of course, but your life, and then you let intuition drive. And you go and sit in the back seat and you enjoy the view. See?
Makes sense. The next question is from development on one of your Q&A. You had shared a post of Alan Watts, and he was talking about some metaphysical experiences, and your text on it was, when you get a call, hang up the call.
When
Do
you
you
get the
remember this?
message, when
Yeah.
you get the message, hang up the call. Yes.
Yeah.
That's Alan Watts. That's not me. That's Alan Watts. Yes.
Okay.
He said that.
Okay. Yeah. So, did you get in your life till today? Did you get such messages or such calls, or any metaphysical experiences you went through to explore awareness as a whole thing?
In terms of mushrooms or ayahuasca or things of that
No.
nature, no, I haven't tried.
I'm not talking about drugs. Without drugs, also there can be some metaphysical experiences.
Of course.
So, did you encounter those on your journey of awareness?
Sure, but I don't believe in talking about those things, because when you talk about those things, you push them away from you. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
They stop having the same effect that they do have on your mind, and then it becomes just a thing which is, hey, I experienced this, and this just becomes an experience which you tell people, and firstly, it's impossible to describe.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Secondly, even if you are able to accurately describe, it's impossible to understand. So it is pointless even in that sense. There are people who believe in describing those experiences. So far, I've done a little bit of that in the book, but I don't specifically bring them up or talk about them, because you have to understand, if you're listening, anybody is listening, instantly the ears go up. Say, oh, I want to hear about these experiences.
Yeah.
And what happens is you start weighing whatever the person says based on the experiences that they have had. So it's like me asking for your trust, saying, hey, I had some metaphysical experiences. I had some out-of-body experiences, whatever, or I'm enlightened, whatever, some crap like that. And therefore, you must trust me. See, because, if I had a oneness experience, if I felt one with the trees or mountains or the bees or whatever, then I am somebody who has the goods, and you must come to me. I hate that. I don't want your trust. I reject your trust. I want your doubt. I want your questions. Okay. And therefore, I will not describe those experiences. You can just assume I had none. That's a better answer. I had no experiences. Do you still find anything that I've said meaningful? If yes, then what does it matter? Right? And if no, then what does it matter? See? So definitely stay away from people who tell you those experiences, because those people are asking for your trust at some level. Those people are trying to share something with you that not only they may be mistaken about, because it's so easy to trick yourself. It's so easy to trick yourself into believing that you have something, you experience something, and then mislead people based on that. So yeah, stay away from those experiences. It's immaterial, it's irrelevant. The problems are immense, and you must solve the problems. Like, if first thing I'll ask is, are your relationships proper? Like, do you have any problems in your relationships? If you do, then first solve those. Then we will talk about metaphysical stuff later.
Is compassion related to holding space for other people?
And yes and no, it depends on what you mean by either of those words. But I believe compassion is far more than just holding space. Because holding space doesn't really require you to give everything that you have. Compassion demands everything that you have. Most people can hold space, but very few people can experience compassion. Compassion is to see the other person, not just see, but experience what it means to be the other person. It goes far, far beyond empathy. So compassion is the only thing that compassion can be felt only when you completely listen. And it can be felt when you listen as if the other person that you're listening to, like how would you listen to God if God came and spoke to you? Like you wouldn't pay attention to anything in your life, would you? Like you wouldn't perceive anything. You would only perceive that person. If you can perceive somebody, you can feel compassion. So very high bar. It's a very, very, I would say it takes 20 years to feel compassion. But holding space is a basic thing we can do in ordinary conversation. Just being patient and allowing other person to speak, allowing other person to be as they are without expecting a certain way. And so, yeah, they are related, but they are two opposite ends of the spectrum. One is very easy, the other is extremely hard.
The last question is, what books would you like to recommend if someone wants to stay on the path?
The thing is, I don't like particularly recommending books. I will recommend books, but I'll first say I don't like recommending books because everybody is different. Because what I get from a book is based on my own conditioning, my own life. So you may not get the same thing from that book. Okay. Having said that, some of the best books I have read are The Awakening of Intelligence by J. Krishnamurti. I highly advise anybody to read that book. As a Man Thinketh, James Allen. Then Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Then there is a book which says, which I don't remember the author, but it Zen Bones, Zen Flesh. It's one book you can read. It's a collection of Zen stories, so it may not be a particular author, but I don't know who put it together. What else? The Power of Now, of course. Eckhart Tolle is very good. The New Earth, his second book, is also good. They are kind of basic, not too deep, but they're really good books. There's also a book by Bertrand Russell. I don't exactly remember the title of the book, but it's something like Man's Search for Happiness or The Pursuit of Happiness. That's also a very good book. The Bertrand Russell's book it's a little bit inspired from Western philosophy, but it's as good as any. Selfish Gene. Definitely read that book if you want to understand what life is. Sorry for my dog. By Richard Dawkins. Selfish Gene. So yeah, those are the books I would recommend, but I don't know if they mean anything to anyone.
What kind of a change would you like to inspire or influence with your work?
Absolutely no change. I don't want to inspire anything because I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm not doing it because people can listen, people can follow me, people can, praise, appreciate me or whatever. I don't care about any of that. I'm doing this because I love to do this. And that's about it. You discover your drift, you follow your passion, and you do it because you want to do it, not because you want to influence change, not because you want to help people. It's a crazy notion anyway of helping people. What gives you the right to help anybody? And so I'm just doing what I love doing. If somebody listens to it and feels helped by it, that is incidental for me. That's why I don't feel any burden of helping people or any burden of criticism. I have had plenty of both, like praise and criticism. It doesn't bother me because I treat them both the same. This is only because I love doing it. So yeah, no change.
Thank you, Amit, so much for your time. It means a lot.
Thank you for inviting me. Is this your first episode?
Yeah, first one.
Well, I wish you great luck, and
Thank you.
I wish you become very successful at this. Thank you for considering me to be your first guest. It's an honor, privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. See you soon.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye. If you like this episode, you can share it with your loved ones and you can subscribe to this channel for more podcasts like this. My name is Shivraj. Until next time, stay inspired.